Hello and welcome to the magic of fishing. Today you join me on the banks of a beautiful estate lake, about half an hour's drive from home in Woking, and it's owned by Farnham Angling Society. It's called Warren Pond, but it's much more than a pond. It's actually part of a long chain of estate lakes that wind their way through a beautiful wooded valley. Really secluded and peaceful here. It is a very windy day, but we've finally got some sunshine. We've had a really terrible April, a bit of a washout. It's either been chucking it down or freezing cold with bitterly northern winds down here in the south at least. And yeah, today the sun is shining. We've got a few hours to fish and I cannot wait to get cracking on what is a brand new venue for me. And I'm hoping today's session is going to be a bit of a tonic for the last two outings, one last Sunday and another midweek to Badshot Lee Small Pond, another of Farnham's waters and an absolutely cracking fishery, but I visited it on very difficult conditions, or with very difficult conditions. We had a cold northerly wind, really cutting wind both days, and temperatures down to nearly zero overnight despite the fact we were nearly in May. Add to that the daytime highs of just 7 or 8 degrees, and it really wasn't conducive to catching fish. If you've enjoyed that last video, you'll know I did manage one bream plus a couple of carp on the trip before that on the Sunday, but not a fish packed session and not a fish packed video. So today I'm really hoping to get amongst the slabs and maybe, if we're lucky, a big carp. And to do that, Trevor, the very helpful fisheries manager, has recommended that I come to peg one on this lake, and you can see it's a really well constructed peg. Really have gone to town on it to make sure it's accessible for people who perhaps find it difficult getting down steep banks, but it's lovely and flat with this stunning view out in front of me. And yeah, Trevor's suggested that I fish groundbait feeder, so I'm going for a simple cage feeder, corn on the hook, and I'm going to be feeding a really smelly fish oil rich ground bait as I was using last weekend. Plenty of expander pellets running through that, micro pellets that I've soaked overnight, and yeah, I'm really hoping we get our tip pulled. I have done something that I've not done for many a year, which is also take Trevor's advice and put out a sleeper rod. So while we're fishing the tip and waiting for the bream to turn up, he's recommended we put out a carp rod. I found my old carp gear in the garage, which I've not used earnestly in a long time, not since getting married really, but yeah, found my old carp rods, just taken one of them, simple rig on that, and whacked it out with a PVA bag with a few crushed boilies in, and we'll see whether we get anything on that as well. And we're into our very first fish. You can see how shallow it is because it's almost fighting on the surface out there. We're fishing at range. Most of the venue is only about 2 or 3 feet in depth, really silty, as many old estate lakes are. It's lovely to see that quiver tip pull round. And this is one of the fish we've come after, a slab, a bream. Dark fish. Well, he's not the biggest bream if what I'm led to believe about this venue is correct. There's supposed to be some real dustbin lids in here, but this is a really nice dark old fish. And it's the first from Warren Pond. Chuffed with that. Well, let's just quickly show you the rig. Very simple as always with my fishing. We've got a running feeder link attached to a 30-gram cage feeder. I think it's a Drennan one, that, yeah. Down to a buffer bead. That's connected to a quick change swivel, so we can change hook lengths, hook baits very easily. It's about 10 or 12 inch hook length down to a 14 strong forged hook, and there we've got a bait spike to attach our 2 pieces of corn. And we're into another fish. Really didn't take too long. Back out on the double corn using a bait spike and a baiting needle just to thread them on above the hook. And although I did put out a few feederfuls of ground bait and pellet before starting, this is now a couple of bream in the first 2 chucks. First 3 casts. So real instant action compared to some of the recent sessions I've had in much cooler conditions. Real heavy weight. This might be a touch better than the first one. And again, it's exciting when that tip pulls round, knowing that there are some really big fish in here, whether it be the big old slabs or the carp. Oh, and that's another lump. Definitely bigger than the first. And lively too. Let's get him unhooked just in the bottom lip, which is where you want it. And that's another cracking dark old bream. Estate late bream. Probably about £4 this one. Well, this is incredible. 3rd fish in 3 casts. And if we get this bream in, that'll be 3 in the first 4 chucks on a brand new water. Just goes to show the value of educating yourself and getting some tips from someone who knows it really well before having a go on a new lake. But to be sat in such a peaceful and lovely spot as this, and catching plenty of fish from the off, I'm a happy man. Another really nodding fight, typical of bream. We don't fish for them for the epic scraps. But I personally think an old, proper size bream is a very worthwhile fish to catch. I think it must be my match roots, but yeah, lively as far as bream go. Big fish as well. That could be the biggest yet. Real lump. Easy £5 plus. Wow, this is the best so far. Good £5 slab. Really dark like the others. Glinting in the sun. Great fishing this. Well, this is a fantastic start. I hoped it would be a tonic, and it's already delivered more than I hoped it could. 3 big slabs, progressively bigger in the first 4 casts. We've barely put any bait out there really. I did put 5 or 6 feeder fulls before I started, then got the carp rod out, and then we've gone back on the feeder line after it's had 5-minute rest, but it's full of fish out there. And this weather's just a bonus. Second time I felt warmth on my skin this year. It's been very slow to come, and although it's very windy, it's glorious to have this warm sun on my face at last. Happy days. A huge liner. Thought it was a bite. It came back slow and then pinged off the fin. And it's not surprising really with the number of fish that seem to be out there, and the depth of the water only being 2 or 3 foot above this deep silt. You are going to get a few liners, but that's always welcome to let you know there's a few fish around. And as well as being shallow and silty like many a good estate lake, not that I've fished too many estate lakes, having spent half my life up north in Sheffield, there's not many around there. A few, but not many. A lot more in this neck of the woods. But yeah, it is very typical being shallow and silted up. There's also a plethora of snags, and it's a 1-bank fishery, so the fishing continues up to my right for a long way, and gets narrower. I believe it gets a touch shallower, really sort of 2 foot average up there, but on the far bank, which is a really good shot on a carp rod, there's all kinds of jungle, dead trees falling in the water, overhanging branches, a real tangle. But it looks very carpy. So yeah, I might have to get my carp rods out again and dust them down a bit more frequently. But although I'm doing well on the tip, I chucked out a little bit of hemp and castor that I had left over on a short waggler line, no more than 10 metres out from the bank. And not only have I just seen some big dark shapes drifting over the area, but big clouds of bubbles coming up as well. So I think I might have to set up a float rod, which seems crazy when I'm catching already on the feeder, but it's a pleasure session and you can do whatever you like on a pleasure session. And when you can actually see fish, big dark shapes, I think they might be bream, could be carp. Got to give it a go on the float as well. Well, I've got the rod out the sleeve, luckily I had something made up already, and although the float is almost the depth, half the depth of the swim, plumbed up and it's no more than 2 foot, I can get cracking quickly and we'll give it a go. Well, that's classic of shallow lakes like this. The fish ghost in, just about give the presence away and really get your pulse going, and then as soon as you cast the line over the top, they drift away, and that's sometimes just how it is. But I've given it a good 20 minutes, and because I know there might be a few fish out on the feeder line, I'm going to wind in the float, go back on the feeder, and if I see any more signs of the fish closer in, we've got the float rod ready to flick out. And that is the beauty, albeit with pros and cons, of shallow lakes. It's been a shocking April, but 24 hours of southerly wind and some proper sunshine, and it seems to have stirred the fish up on this lake anyway. Could have been fishing well all week for all I know, but certainly feels alive today. And obviously conversely, the shallow waters cooled down quickly as well, and that sharp drop in temperature we had a week ago was the cause of the problems at Badshot Lee, but making up for it today. Well, this one really was worth waiting that bit extra for. £7 2 ounce, big enough to warrant a weigh, and that is only £1 off my best bream. Cracking fish, really thick across the back, and just like the others, got some real age to it. Well chuffed with that. It's constant liners, and I had to sit on my hands for that one, wait for the tip to really pull round. And we're in again. Sun's just gone behind a cloud. And the wind's easing off a little bit as we head into the evening. Here it comes again. The sun, that is. But here comes the bream as well. I can't imagine it'll be as big as the last one, but we will see. Certainly a good fish. Oh, wallowing into the net. Lovely. That is another golden slab in the golden sunlight. Probably about 5, maybe 6 pounds, going off the last one that was just over the 7 mark. It's really making up for those slow sessions I had over the last week. This is magic stuff. That's a lovely chunky bream. And what a great evening's fishing on an estate lake. And the sun's just about to dip below the tree line opposite. And as the sun begins to set, the amount of liners I'm getting is incredible, almost constant. I've slackened the line right off, and it is a sinking line to just try and get as much as I can down to the deck. And you see it pulling tight again. And now the wind's died, I can afford to do that, fish a slack line, try and get as much as I can out of the way of the dustbin lids that are feeding out there. But even doing that, you can see just how many times fins are catching and the tip's been nudged round or pulling around really slowly. You can tell the difference. The bites generally are much more savage, much more positive, whereas these liners, just little plucks or pulls and then drop back. And the coots are having a good squabble out there. If you can see them through the midges. But otherwise, peace has descended on the lake, and it really is marvellous to be here. You can hear the water overflow going down into the next lake along. Bit of bird song, but that's about it. And even I was fooled that time. Definitely another liner, but really did pull round. Let's get back out. Now let's see if I can show you these liners, or even an actual bite again. Didn't take long. Believe it or not, folks, that's not a bite. That is. And we're in. So just occasionally these liners do turn into actual bites. It's a great feeling. With the rod fully pulled around against that clear sky. It's a very special evening, and it's great to be able to share it with you. That's another good fish. Taking my time as I reach for the net. We've got him. And that, my friends, is another proper slab, and I'm really pleased I could show you the bite, the fight and the end product. Okay, so we don't get epic scraps out of these fish, but I still think they're stunning creatures and deserve our respect. So let's get this one back. Well, what an absolutely brilliant session, and it's been a privilege to have you folks at home along for the ride. I'm probably going to get another half hour's fishing. We're at that exciting time of the year when the days are getting longer and the air's getting warmer at last. And I'm just sorry that I have to leave you here, but I need to film this before it gets too dark. And yeah, what a special first visit to a new venue. Can't wait to get back over the summer. Nothing on the sleeper rod, but who's complaining? Not with slabs like that. And I'm sure there are some absolutely amazing carp in here to target as well. So thanks so much for watching as always. If you're not already in the club, please subscribe, button below. And if you're already with us, thanks as always for your support. It really does make a difference. Give it a like, and I'll see you again before long on the bank.